Hey, this is Susan Blanton with the Create Happy Now podcast, and you are in for a treat. For the next 20 weeks, we will be talking about how to strengthen your intuition, and I promise at the end of the 20 interviews, you will have all the tools for a stronger intuition. If you want to experience more enhanced creativity, increased self-knowledge, better decision-making, greater physical health, and improved mental well-being that comes with having a stronger intuition, then keep listening. As I mentioned in my last podcast, for the next 20 weeks, I will be featuring an interview every Wednesday from the Intuitive Masters of Happiness Conference I held back in February of 2023. We had such an awesome turnout that we want to make it available in the audio version on the Create Happy Now podcast and YouTube channel. Now, if you want to watch the interviews rather than just listen to the audio version, you can download all 20 video interviews today to have in your own library for just $27.95, which is $20 off the VIP access package that we offered in February. You can go to my website, createhappynow.com, and go to the events tab to get your download today. Now, before I get to my first guest, for those of you who struggle with quieting your mind and want to be able to do it faster and easier and have more happiness, abundance, peace, and purpose, and say yes to life every day, I want to remind you that I have a new meditation app coming out this summer that is designed to do just that. I also have a new meditation YouTube channel. Both are called Create Happy Meditations. If you would like to be on the waiting list for the app, go to my website and click on the meditation app tab and sign up today. Meanwhile, like and subscribe to my meditation channel. Today, my first guest is my mentor and guru, Burge Smith-Lyons, whom I have known for over 7 years. I have taken about every program she offers. She is amazing and has a wonderful, dedicated community of which I have made so many lifelong friends. Here is the director's cut, getting you down to her juicy wisdom about what is intuition and how to strengthen it. So, Burge, can you please just kind of introduce the audience on what is our intuition and why now do we need to strengthen it? And how do we do it?
Great question, and welcome everyone. And thank you so much, Susan. And it's just been my honor, absolutely my honor. And I'm excited to share all of this with everybody out there and you, and let's play. And great question. So I want to start with, okay, what is it? You asked, what is intuition? And one of the things that I always say is that your intuition is always right. So that's my belief, that your intuition is always right. So how do you know what's your intuition and what's your fear? What is your decision making about something that you have a knowing about, or is it your gut feeling? And I always say, intuition is into it, right? It's into it. So what is it? We're going within to it. And it, in my opinion, is anything you want to call it: universe, God, our consciousness, higher self, our spirit, the mammalian brain, the gut feeling, that inner knowing, the connection. So it's going within to really feel that and understand that. And you can either follow your intuition, and maybe you've done this before where you've followed your intuition and it was right, of course, perfectly right, because it always is. Or did you not follow it and regret the fact that you didn't?
Like, I knew it. I knew I should have done this. That's when you didn't follow your intuition.
Right. And so the thing for me has always been, how do I know it's my intuition? And how do I know if it's, fear? Or if it, in other words, if it's saying don't do something or do something, is that something that I just made up of deciding intellectually, or is it my gut feeling, which in my world is intuition, right? So I wanted to kind of give a distinction around that, around fear versus intuition, and how do you discern the difference? So one of the things that I do is I'm one of those girls that say, okay, I teach a lot of workshops, so I'm going to bring a lot of stuff just in case I need it. So I think, okay, my question has always been, am I bringing this stuff just in case I need it because it's my intuition, just in case I need it? Or am I bringing stuff and creating something to justify me bringing it? Do I create the situation so I can say, see, I told you I should have brought this? I
Right.
always, I always wondered about that. I always wondered, is that, what is that about? But it's, let me give you a little bit of etymology or the origin behind decision making and choices. So for me, decision, or the origin of the word decide, D means um, divide. Okay. And side means kill. That's the origin of that word, right? And so we kill off our options. So if we don't want something. So when we're making a decision about something, we're killing off the decision not to do it or to do it.
Mm-hmm.
Like chocolate, I choose chocolate ice cream. I'm going to choose chocolate ice cream. I've decided because I don't like vanilla. That's killing off vanilla and choosing chocolate. So that's a decision.
Right.
Choice to me is like a feeling. Choice is like there's no conscious reason behind it. There's no reasoning or intellect behind it. There's no form to it. It's just a choice. That is the intuitive side. That's that gut feeling. I'm not going to change my mind. I want chocolate ice cream because I want it.
It's like a moth to the flame feeling. Like you're just like, I gotta, like I need to. It's the mountain I gotta climb, and I don't care. I'm climbing it.
Yeah. And so when you talk yourself out of or talk yourself into another decision or another choice, then that to me brings in the intellect and it brings in logic and that type of thing. And that's when your mind can play tricks on you and get in the way of
Mm-hmm.
your gut feeling. So for me, the decision or the discernment, rather, the discernment of what is this I'm doing? Is it fear or is it my intuition? Is, do I feel it in my gut? Or am I killing off decisions? Am I choosing one because of the other? I'm making a logical decision about something. And did I talk myself into it or out of it? And I guess you've always heard your first decision, your first choice in a multiple choice question is always the right one, right?
Right.
A lot of the time. So that to me is that small, quiet voice inside of us, that intuition. And so that's my blanket answer, I guess, about the decisions and choices and understanding the difference between the two. And so, how do you not talk yourself out of your intuition? Because again, if it's your God self or your universal divine wisdom or your inner knowing or consciousness, divine, if that's true, then it's always, in my world, it's always right. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Yeah.
So what do you feel are like the benefits right now? Like, why should we really focus on strengthening our intuition now?
Well, now is an interesting word because I have always felt it's best to strengthen that. It's called trusting your intuition.
Mm-hmm.
It's the trust level. I don't know if you've noticed or not, in the world, trust has gone down and drama has gone up.
Mm-hmm.
And when trust is down and drama is up in the world, and maybe in your life, or maybe certainly around the world, there's a lot of people don't trust each other. So the trust part of this is really important, trusting your own intuition. There's a lot of gaslighting that goes on. I guess that's the new word for a lot of people, right? And it's like, am I real? It makes us doubt. It makes us doubt, are we doing the right thing or what's happening? And so I think to make it very real right now to a lot of people is, listen, if that's true, if your intuition is always right, then trusting it is the key, is trusting your intuition. And how do people get information? How do you get, and everybody's different on how they bring in that intuition or bring in that information from beyond, it could be your spirit guides or universal divine wisdom or God or energy or consciousness. Where does it come from? Right? What dimension is it? That kind of thing. And I don't want to get too esoteric, but there are many ways that we can bring in information. So some of us are empaths, and I know you are, right? You're an empath? Yes? You think?
I don't know. As some
Test
people
you.
think I am. I
We'll
don't know.
test you. We'll test you. When you
Okay.
do higher vibes, that's my higher vibes thing. We test everybody, but everybody has a way of bringing in information. And an empath is someone who feels other people's emotions. They're here to transmute other people's pain. That's what they're here for. An empath is someone who can cry at a drop of a hat of a commercial you see on television, or you feel people. The feeling is you feel their energy and you feel emotion. And that's one way of bringing in information, is through your feeling. It's also called clairsentient, where you have a feeling, and that inner knowing is a feeling. And that's how you can't explain it. It's not intellectual. It's just a knowing, right? A feeling. The knowing part is clairsavant. That means you're clairsavant. Some people see things. They're clairvoyant. Some people hear things. They're clairaudient, right? Some people are what we call channel writers, where they don't have any idea why they're writing or what they're writing. They just start writing stuff, and it's like, where did that come from? And that's called channel writing, and that's information coming in for your intuition.
There's channel painting.
Yes, and now you do that, don't you?
Well, yes, because people say, "Oh, you have great skill," and I go, "I don't really," because when I started painting, I'm trying and I'm using my intellect. And then when I let go and just kind of get into the zone, then I'm lost, and I must be channeling, because when I stand back, I go, "Oh, where'd that come from?" You know?
Exactly. And I would say you're found. You're not lost. So when we get in touch with that connection, like you're talking about, it is a finding your voice, or finding your connection. And I understand about getting lost. Your intellect goes away, right? Your whole logic, everything. You're in passion in that. And so, yeah, it's the same thing. I'm sure all of you out there have said one time or another, you've said something to your friend or to a family member, and you went, where did that come from?
Yes. Yes.
And it was the perfect thing to say to them, right? And
Or
it was
somebody
like
talks to you and says, your child who doesn't know anything from this world, but all of a sudden they're just starting emitting this wisdom that came from somewhere, and you're like, out of the mouth of babes. Wow. And
exactly. And the modalities that people use to get in touch with all of that, and most of this is it's unconscious. You don't even know you're doing it. But I'm just giving you that as an example, that's how we bring in information, where most of us, or all of us, in my opinion, are conscious channels. We're channeling something. We're consciously channeling. Now, I do trans channeling, which is a little different. And that's one of the reasons that I bring, or how I can bring in wisdom and information and connection and clarity through different dimensions. But we all do that in different ways. So some of us paint, some of us write, some of us have this knowing, some of us have a feeling, some of us see things, like I said, or smell things. And just as an aside, some people, have you ever smelled something in a room like roses? Or that is supposedly, it is angels that anytime you smell roses, it's because you are in the presence of something extraordinary.
yeah.
Or maybe you smell your grandfather's pipe or something, it's like some people have that.
Where's that smell coming from? Because it wouldn't be right here. It just could not. It's impossible.
And so so the part of all of this is trusting it, because when we're little, we have great access to where we were before.
Our intuition was so much better as children.
Well, we hadn't learned yet that that's not okay, or that it's weird, or, we all have our own most of us have little friends we talk to, right? And then we were told that's not okay, or we thought maybe it was strange, and we shut that part of us down.
Right. Because your parents aren't talking about it. The adults aren't talking about it. So you're like, well, maybe I'm just weird. Maybe I'm just like, they'll just say, oh, it's just your imagination.
Right. And imagination is the key, right? When you visualize, when you meditate, imagination is key. And Albert Einstein even knew that.
Yeah. He
He said
talks a lot
imagination.
about intuition.
He did. And he
And
talked
he's a
about imagination.
scientist.
What?
And he's a scientist. And he talked
Well,
about intuition a lot.
yeah, well, it's that quantum, it's that quantum physics. It's that whole other realm that can't be explained yet for some people, right?
Right.
Until it becomes into that community. So to me, magic is just science not explained yet.
Right.
Just haven't explained it yet. So that intuitive side of us, in a lot of us can connect to that quantum field or the different dimensions. The third dimension is who we are here, that we can see, know, feel, taste. The fourth dimension is beyond that, where that's where a lot of mediums go, okay, into that other dimension where we've separated from our physical bodies. That's then the fifth dimension and beyond. There's a lot of different levels that you could go to, and that's where you access that divine universal energy. And people call it different things. I mean, that's where God comes through. That's, there's a lot of heart-centered feelings that you can have around all of that, but it's just important to understand it and know it, to know, how does it come in? What do I do with it? How can I not let it affect me in my daily life, where it can just blow my circuits out? Because some of us are really wide open with our intuition, or really wide open with information coming in, and it can be overwhelming. And so what I share with people is, how do you manage that energy? How can you manage that? And actually, if you are an empath, or if you came here, meaning coming to this planet for your mission or your reason or your purpose, to support and connect people, and maybe even transmute other people's pain, it's important to understand how to not let it affect you. So I wanted to give you a bunch of modalities that many of you might have heard about or use in order to do that. Would that be helpful?
Sure. Yes.
Yeah, I'm just going to go through a list of different things that you can do to tap into your intuition and your knowing through breath work. There's a lot of different breath work that you can do in the world. I'm not going to go through, explain everything, but there's a lot of breath work that you can do, or breath play, I call it, so that you can breathe. It's mindfulness uses breath work. A lot of us use, being able to have a rebirth, to access parts of us that we've forgotten about, that kind of thing. Tai Chi is a way that you can connect with your body, mind, and spirit. And people are into that now. I mean, it's been around for forever. But body and breath work is really important to connect with your intuition. Sound, having sound, like sound baths, and using didgeridoos and all these different kinds of light waves. You can see light opening up. They made a lot of these things in different types of practitioners use this. You could do guided imagery, which is guided meditation and visualization. EFT is one way, emotional freedom technique. Toning and opening up your chakras, clearing that, going into a trance, meaning trance is that what you were talking about, kind of being lost, if you want to look at it that way. It's just being open to experiencing other realms, other dimensions. And you can get there a lot of different ways. Hypnosis is one way. Visioning, setting your intentions is connecting into that, I think. And kinesiology is another thing, which is muscle testing. And
yeah, that's tapping into your innate body, because you can actually do healing of yourself through your intuition, which is basically also tapping into your smart body. Your body can heal yourself. I mean, I remember back in 2008, I kept getting sick all the time. And I was like, you know what? I don't have time for this. I'm a single mom, and I just don't have time to be sick. I've got to make a living. And I didn't get sick for 8 years.
What a great intention.
I just said, I don't get sick anymore. And I stopped getting sick anymore. So yes. And there's a lot of things I've healed myself from too. Just putting my intention that I want to do this. My mother used to get migraines all the time. And then she just said, I'm not going to get migraines anymore. And she never did get another one ever.
That's wild. And I believe it 100% because we are what our thoughts create. Like we are that powerful in how we can manifest what we want. And in order for us to be neutral, I think is another part of trusting your intuition is being neutral with the information. So if what I mean by that is being in the love thought system as opposed to being in the fear thought system. So if you let things trigger you, then you're not neutral anymore, and you're not able to be what the Native Americans call the hollow bone.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it's having that connection and that hollow bone where it's clear, where you have a clear connection and you're not allowing anything on the outside to trigger you. And that's important too, to really access the love thought system, because to me, you're either in love or fear when your mind is, you know, being accessed. Am I in love or am I in fear? And that intuitive part to me is always going to be love for self and love for others. And a really quick way for you to check is to do this real quick. You can ask yourself yes or no. So you play with me for a minute. Say, do I trust God or the universe? Yes or no?
Yes.
Do I trust myself? Yes or no?
Yes.
Okay. So if you out there answered yes or no, and they're opposites, doesn't matter which, if they weren't aligned, if it wasn't a yes, yes, then there's a disconnect, because if you believe that we are all part of this connection, and if you believe that you can trust God or the universe, but you can't trust yourself, or vice versa, then there's a disconnect there. That there's a separateness that you might feel around who you are and your connection and out there. So I would highly suggest you do that. Just all of you out there, just ask yourself that. And if you're a yes, it's easier to allow yourself to connect to the universal divine internet. Does that make sense?
Yes. And I think also looking to make improvements to your own love of yourself.
Yeah.
I mean,
absolutely.
that is a huge block if you aren't making strides in that direction.
That's why I do Essence of Being, so people can, tap into that.
Yes. Yes. I mean, because that was hard for me. I went through many years loathing myself, just completely discredited anything that I ever did. And then because we were told not to brag or not to boast. And it wasn't that. That's not really self-love. Self-love is just that, self-love. It's not vain. It is loving this person, this person that's existing in this time and space, and we're here to exist and enjoy life and take in all that it has, right?
Yes.
And not judge what our part is in it. We're here to just be here. And
well, you have a very good point about judge, because the word judge can come up, that judgment. And that's the doubt piece. That's the doubt piece, because we've allowed other people outside of ourselves and other institutions and other energies or whatever outside of who we are judge us and make a difference in our life. And we choose to say, and that's when we get into this trap, So yeah, self-love, there is no judgment. There is no judgment. That's who you are, and you're connected to God, universe, spirit, and that's part of who we are. So that is the key of trusting,
yes,
allowing, not doubting. And if you doubt, if you doubt yourself, it's okay. Just understand that's what you're doing, and you can move back into that love thought system. So one way to do that, I'm going to give us some tools, okay, that we can do this with. So one of the tools you can do is just get quiet and focus on your breathing. And they do this in the meditative state where you breathe in it's called box breathing, where you breathe in 4 counts and you hold for 4 counts and then you breathe out for 4 counts. So you just focus on breath. And what that does is it brings your mind, your chatter, it alleviates that. So you're quieting your mind, You're focusing on your breath and you're emptying your mind. And then from that point, when your mind is a little bit empty, then you ask yourself the question, this is highest and best for all concerned. So if you say that, and you say, if you have a decision to make, or if you have something that's happening, you're going, I don't know if I should do this or not. And you go through that process and you say, this is the highest and good for all concerned. If you get a feeling in your gut, a little tingly, then that's your intuition. Say yes. If you are, if your mind is listing all the reasons why you should or shouldn't, then that is your mind doing it, and then it's not your intuition. And because we go into that fear, flight, freeze, right? Reptilian brain. That's when we go into the reptilian
Survival
brain. That's when the fear comes in. I shouldn't do this because blah. Okay. So if you get the tingling in your gut, you say, this is the highest and best for all concerned. And you get the tingle, then that's a good indication. That's your intuition telling you. And your intellect can ramble and make excuses. In other words, if it's in your mind and it's not your intuition, it can ramble on about, well, these are the reasons and this is justification and here's an excuse why I should or shouldn't. Now you're out of the intuition part. Okay. So another technique that you can use is the kinesiology technique of your body telling you yes or no. And what that means is you can say a statement, say, making this decision is the highest and best for all concerned. And you stand with yourself with your eyes closed, your feet are hip. You can do that, yes. But for some people, doing kinesiology with your fingers or yourself or your hand, sometimes it's hard to do on yourself because your mind gets in the way. So a really great way for me, anyway, to do it on myself is I'm standing there with my hips, my feet, hips, same equal distance with my hips, close my eyes, and I say the statement. You don't ask the question. You say a statement. So you say, moving to California is the best and highest good for all concerned. Close your eyes and then feel your body. If your body moves forward, that's a yes. If your body moves back, that's a no. That's like a down and dirty, quick kind of, if you're still confused about, is this my intuition? Am I making it up? What am I doing? You can use that. That's a tool that you can use. Does that make sense?
Yes. And the thing is too, it's just, you part of the self-love part is getting to know yourself and how you read your intuition, whether it's audio or visual, or it's just a knowing, or it's a smell. I mean, if you explore how you communicate, so you just try a few different things, but you have to be quiet in order to listen, and you can't find it out there.
Boy. Yeah. And we do, right? We try to validate our decisions with all kinds of things. Now, it's okay to get clarity and maybe some different perspectives. And that's why I channel Shamanasta, is to get a different perspective. It's a different dimensional perspective, if you understand that. Or it's just like when you're praying or meditating or going into that theta state, right? There's a delta state, but the theta state is where you really get into the other consciousness, where you can really play with that. And for me, it's not just the self-love, but it's the big T word. I'm going to say it over and over again. It's trusting that you know the difference, that you matter, that you know, and not allow yourself to get caught up in all of the validation part of judging and dishonoring your own wisdom. And I feel like definitely if you ask for questions and ask for clarity and support, that's great, because it does give you some kind of a perspective. But when you really boil it right down to it, like you said, it's all about you. And you have the answers and you know it all. So it's just tapping into that wisdom and trusting it.
And the thing is once you've kind of gotten the knack of trusting your intuition, then you're going to see more things coming into your life that you have wanted that may have been at arm's length. You just haven't been able to get that.
We
So
call
you
that
might-
we call that the unconscious competent, where it's just unconscious. You're not even having to try. You're not having to do affirmations. You're not having to read the book or do the class or whatever.
Right.
That things like this Red Sea parts and things just happen. And,
Right.
and it's just like, so you're able to really
Yes.
unconsciously your competency levels are just, things are moving for you and you don't even ask questions.
You have more flow in your life. You have, if you have a bad spot, you're able to like ride the wave a little bit more effortlessly. It's not so much, the dips are just so deep, you're just like, I can get back, and then, and just abundance flows in so many different ways, that, it's not just money. It's maybe meeting the right person at the right time that gives you an opportunity for something, or maybe you just got some knowledge that you've been wanting to know and you didn't know where to find it, and finally it just kind of falls in your lap, or you're just happy.
Or just what?
Or you're just happier.
Just happy. What is that happy thing? What is that? It's so elusive to so many people, right? Or they can't hold on to it. It's like, I want to hold on to this feeling. So yeah, and I know that's one of your biggest gifts that you bring to the world, honey, is that happiness.
Well, it is all the same. Is trusting your intuition is happiness. Happiness is trusting your intuition. It's what it is.
It is what it is. So
intuition and happiness are the same thing. Basically.
It is to me. Well, and it is understanding the difference between love and fear, and what is this really my intuition, or am I just making it up?
Right.
Because again, if your philosophy is your intuition is always right, then go with it.
Awesome.
Go with it.
Well, this was a great introduction to intuition for the audience. Thank you so much. And I wanted to have you have the opportunity to share what you've got going on. How can they get in touch with you if they want more of Burge Smith-Lyons? So what can they do?
Well, one thing is just go to essenceofbeing.com and we'll have that there as well. That's the entire thing. But shamanasta.com is where you can go in and get answers or get some clarity or decisions, just some support with different things on a personal level or global level if you choose. And again, that's from that fifth dimension and beyond. If you're curious, check it out. But you can come on live and do that anywhere in the world and ask a question for yourself. So that will help support you. So it's shamanasta.com and essenceofbeing.com. And actually, I have our toll free is 888-400-5566 all around the world. Yes. And I have a little gift for all of you. Shall I tell them what that is?
Go ahead.
So that'll also be there, essenceofbeing.com/AFP, which stands for Affirmations for Prosperity. So because it's the beginning of the year, and any time is really good for this, right, is to be able to affirm your prosperity. So these are affirmations that really work, and they're done in such a way, it's that magic part. So you could just download them and put them anywhere in your iPod or whatever you have, and just say them every day. Affirmations for prosperity. So that's my gift to you today.
Well, thank you so much. I'm so thrilled that you're here today. And I look forward to people reaching out to you, and because you will not be disappointed. And again, thank you so much, Burge.
You're welcome. And thank you, Susan, for doing this. And what you focus on expands, everyone.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Thanks for listening to this episode of the Create Happy Now podcast. Please be sure to subscribe, and if you are watching on YouTube, hit that notification bell. If you have a topic to suggest, please leave a comment below. Catch the Create Happy Now podcast on iTunes, Google Podcasts, Podbean, Spotify, Audible, iHeartRadio, Player FM, Listen Notes, and Podchaser. Check out other YouTube videos on the Create Happy Now YouTube channel. And if you want more, check down below for resources, courses, and events, or go to www.createhappynow.com.